Hi, I'm Ann Weeks. I'd like to open the meeting of the Town of Wenham's Planning Board for Thursday, March 13th. This is our regular meeting at 7 p.m. in Wenham Town Hall in the first floor meeting room. We are also broadcasting on HWCam and available to the public on Zoom. If technology fails, we will just be here, but you're always welcome to come in person. We have a couple of administrative items tonight, no public hearings, and the first one is concerning the A&R for 175 Cherry Street. Margaret, do you have something you want to present?
I do. Let me pull that up. Are you here for that?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, it is you. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Do you want to just talk to the board and tell them what's going on, or do you want me to lay it out for them?
Sure, I can. I'm here at my husband's place. You got these plans drawn up.
Okay, well, I need you to go to the podium and state your name for the record and your address,
Sorry,
all that good stuff. Well, it's just so that people who are listening online can hear you.
Okay. I'm Bianca Hansen. I own 175 Cherry Street with my husband Paul. My husband Paul's a general contractor in the area, so we just got we have two separate lots. When we bought the house, it was parceled off into two sections. Their back lot is no longer buildable because we have septic in the backyard now. We were unable to put the septic system in the front, so we moved it to the back. We're looking to combine the lots to eventually do a little work on our house. It would just make it easier to have one parcel of land instead of having two separate spaces in our yard. But yeah, I think, I don't know if there's anything else I really, that would go into it. It's just our back lot's essentially useless on its own. It's just a space with our septic system.
So you're combining two lots into one?
Yep.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Ian, if I could. So they currently own two lots. There's this one here on Cherry Street, fronts on Cherry Street, and then there's right now a property line here, and
Right.
they own this lot also.
On Eden,
So,
yeah.
Yep, they want to combine the lots, and then they're going to propose an addition to the house, but that will go through the ZBA. The A&R is your purview, and the
Right.
special permit, or whatever they need for ZBA, they'll go to afterwards.
Great. Questions from the board? Anything? No?
Oh, just,
Seems highly non-controversial.
yeah, the front yard is on Cherry Street, right?
Yes, so our house faces Cherry. The back
Got it.
lot's technically on Eaton Street.
Okay.
Their driveway is on Eaton Road, so that it's easier to get in and out of than on Cherry Street.
Right, that's good.
Yep. We actually have we have two driveways. We have one in the front as well, but the back's definitely it's definitely safer to pull out there.
Yeah, and that's the one you use, right?
For the most part, yeah. We use the other one with guests, or if we're just pulling in to like unload things from the car, just because the back can be a little more difficult. But ideally, if we'd like to reposition the door on the side of the house so that we can pull in and just walk in from the side.
Yeah.
Both lots are in total 20,000 square feet, or one is?
Both lots together, I
Are
believe, are
20,000.
20,000 square feet. They're both small, non-conforming lots. So you're not creating a conforming lot, but an A&R is just saying it's not a subdivision under subdivision control, and there is frontage on a way for each lot. Yeah, a lot
Let's
of
do
those
it.
lots are small over.
I move to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Scott.
Anderson, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Pascal, aye.
Woodland, aye.
Great,
Got
thank
it.
you.
We can sign it.
Yeah, you can just endorse that when you have time tonight, and
But you're not taking it with you, right? You're going to come and
she
pick
can
it
take
up.
it with her
If we endorse it right now.
Let's do it.
Right
Good.
now.
Right, so let's do that, so you don't have to wait around. That's, yeah,
I got the good pens right there.
How do we all sign this?
Yeah, and then you can take it with you when you.
Sign it with that.
I'm just going to move this
So it doesn't spill on the,
on the Mylar, yeah.
Seems to take a lot of effort. The pen cap.
It's been a week.
I bet.
I guess,
total A is 20,000 and change.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We won't feel disrespected if you need to leave. So.
No, not at all. That's why we did this. Well, often they don't go quite as quickly as yours did, just so you know. So the next item is probably going to take a little bit longer. It is discussion and a vote on presenting the MBTA 3A zoning amendment to the Select Board for consideration for the June 9th, 2025 town meeting warrant.
Do you have the language I sent today? Did you get
Yes.
that?
I don't have Town of Wenham email as yet.
Yeah, they're working on that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I went on vacation on the 28th, and I went to look while I was on vacation and noticed I don't have.
So
town
you
email.
did at one point have.
I did,
Oh.
until February 28th, and after that I don't.
You didn't get your termination notice from the planning
No,
board?
God, that's why I'm here. So, we know what's in our proposal because we've talked about it quite a bit. I don't know, do you want to present anything to us tonight, Margaret?
No, we pretty much kept everything the same because, as you recall, we were supposed to go to fall town meeting with this
Right.
same package, and that got canceled, so we just put everything on hold. So I just picked up what we had, and you'll notice the dates haven't changed and everything. Once you discuss it tonight, I'll make the changes that you want. I think Dan does have something. he
I'm
wanted to
sure.
share with you.
I do, but
Others may as well, so.
yeah, before we get to that, I had a question about a typo, which I think it's a typo.
Oh, sure.
On page 2, where
Of the draft zoning?
of the draft zoning,
Yep.
right? It says that number 3, there about 3/4 of the way down. It says we're amending Article 12 Overland Special District to add a new section 255-12.6. And then the next section says 255-16.6. Is that supposed to be 12.6?
I'm sorry,
No,
Dan, could you say that again? Where do you see
Yeah,
that?
they don't match.
Yeah, on the bottom of page 2, under, you see where it says F, multifamily housing,
Yep,
and then there's a number 3.
yep,
Amend Article 12, and it says add new section 255-12.6.
yep.
The new section is then 16.6.
Oh, yeah?
Is that supposed to be 12.6? I'm assuming it's
Yes.
supposed to be 12.6, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we need to make that,
Can we just confirm that by looking at
I
the
will, yep.
zoning bylaw online?
Yeah, I have to look at it a little closer, but I'll go through it.
Just make sure that we, yeah, it's twice, it's at the end of F too, so probably this is the typo here.
right, but, so,
Yeah, that could just be a typo.
because we used 12.6 on page 1 3 times, so.
Right, and on page 2 twice.
So do we want to move to substantive discussion, or?
There's
Sorry,
no-
what was that?
I think it's a big yes.
Okay.
Is there any development on the legal front since I went out on vacation on the 28th?
What do you mean, the overall legal front?
Yeah, like the cases.
So my understanding of the status on the legal front is, starting with the SJC decision back in January, which required EOHLC to re-promulgate regulations in accordance with the state APA, section, or chapter 30A. I think we all know the governor issued emergency regulations in
Right.
place of the former guidelines on January 14th. Those are only in effect for 90 days, which I believe expires April 14th.
Soon, yeah.
EOHLC has said in several instances that there has been no substantive change to the guidelines in the new regulations, with the exception of there are a couple of deadlines that they extended for towns to come into compliance.
Right.
But in terms of metrics, which is, and I use metrics to refer to unit capacity or land area, whatever they're using for our town, there's been no change from the guidelines. So we are still required to zone for 365 total units in order to come into compliance with what EOHLC is saying are the regulations. The SJC decision required, as part of compliance, EOHLC to issue impact statements. We've seen one.
Pretty limited.
Yes, it was like a checkbox boilerplate form, which you said no to everything. Yeah, so we haven't seen I think Ben was referring to them at our last meeting,
Yeah.
the small business, I don't know if it's small
No,
business,
it wasn't.
public
There
and
was a public and private.
public and private impacts. We haven't seen that yet. There was a comment period, I think, that was open. We sent a letter. That closed in February.
Did.
I haven't heard anything further on that front. I don't know anything further about them promulgating any other regulations other than what we see as the emergency regulations.
And is the town planning to do some fiscal analysis? Do I know that?
I think the select board is looking into that, following up on what's in the master plan. There's sort of a
Yeah.
beginning of that, right, David?
Yeah, so Scott and I met with Ben Timon, and Steve Poulos and Margaret and Kate Mallory, and talked about how we're going to try and pull that together, bring in, solicit some input from the departments, and Margaret was there as well, solicit some input from departments. Others may join this. Once we get it up and running, our intention is to make the meetings, I believe, I'll just speak for myself, I believe the intention is to make the meetings publicly accessible, because this is not any closed-door thing. This is about
Right.
doing our best to use the tools at our disposal to efficiently and economically come up with some guidance for the town about fiscal impact under different scenarios of potential development of these MFODs, with the goal being that the assumptions are made clear and the variables, so that if anyone thinks that the assumptions and variables are incorrect, they can take with whatever we do and change it
Reanalyze it.
and reanalyze it. So there shouldn't be any lack of transparency here, is our hope.
And the goal is to be done with that before we
Well, probably
go to-
before our public hearing, but certainly before it goes back to the select board if it goes that far.
And the timeline for us is we have to recommend that it go to the select board to come back to us for a public hearing.
That's your
what we
goal
have
for
to
tonight,
do
yes,
tonight.
is to initiate the amendment.
So, on the legal front, that's all I know with respect to the Milton case, the aftermath of the Milton case,
Great.
and where the regulations stand now. In early February, there was a citizen's lawsuit filed in Suffolk Superior
Right.
by, I believe the plaintiff's name is Diana Viens or Viens. The complaint has been filed. I looked at the docket today. There's been no further action in that case, as far as I can tell from the docket. That case generally challenges the governor's declaration of an emergency, saying there was no emergency or no real emergency, and also challenges whether they're complying with 30A, whether this process complies with 30A, basically. But again, I've seen no further activity in that case. The other development since we last met in the fall is recently, as everybody I think knows, the auditor made a determination that 3A, in her opinion, constitutes an unfunded mandate.
Right.
So that's the landscape of, I would say,
Nothing.
legal challenges or where we are.
Sounds like pretty much the same as was before I went out.
I think so.
Super appreciate the summary.
Has the auditor said, because in the auditor's statement, which I found was pretty high level. It referred to more
Unsupported.
analysis. Did they say anything about, I haven't heard anything, at least, about them saying anything about the, whatever this more analysis may be. Is that something the auditor is going to do, or are they asking another body in the state to?
I think the auditor is waiting on a further impact
I think they're
statement,
talking about that fiscal impact
Oh.
analysis that we're waiting for.
which we're waiting, we haven't seen either.
I'm
Well,
not-
that's really the problem with the auditor's opinion.
So they talking about 3A?
We most certainly are.
Is that what the 3A?
If you can please mute,
3A only?
yes.
Right now.
Muting, yes.
The auditor's opinion was interesting, but it wasn't really clear how far it would extend. And I think about Wenham, and I wonder, and I don't even know if this is the right question to ask, but, you know, for the unfunded aspects that she identified, specifically technical compliance with the law, we did get grant funding to do that work.
Right.
Is that true? Were we out of pocket in terms of true funding?
We had a consultant that
For
was
the
paid for
consultants?
by a grant.
No, we didn't have to pay for that.
Yeah.
It was paid for by the state, both of them.
Yeah, I think the argument that she made was unsupported, which is that the unfunded mandate is for, she assumes that the towns would pick up the cost of infrastructure improvements to support. Oh, sure. I think the auditor assumes that, because it says so in her statement, that the towns will pick up the extra cost of developing the infrastructure for any development that would occur under the zoning, under the new zoning, which is not a good assumption, I think. And that would seem to be the basis for the unfunded mandate comment.
I mean, I'm not going to dig too deeply into what the auditor's opinion was. I mean, I will say the Attorney General's office has disagreed with the auditor's opinion, and I think that that is something that is still in process. So
Right.
I know a number of towns have, I think, filed challenges or requested exemptions on the unfunded mandate basis. So that's going to play out, and I think ultimately a court is going to decide that.
Right.
So that's my understanding of where everything stands as far as the legal landscape. I might be missing something. If anybody else knows of anything,
And the
Feel free to
status of the
chime in.
grants that the town received,
just, I mean, on the board for
sorry,
now.
the
Thank
board
you.
is speaking, sorry. The status of the grants that the town received but were withheld.
We have gotten that grant.
That's
We
good.
signed the contract with the state just the other day. So we should be getting those funds to do the updates to the subdivision rules and regulations.
Excellent. I would
Yep.
love to spend time
We
doing
got
that.
65,000.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that's not one of the listed grants, so it is clear that Wenham can be impacted if we're not in compliance.
Yeah,
so.
it's one of the grants listed in the regulations.
In the regulations, but not
Yeah,
in the.
not in the
but
law.
not in the law itself.
Yeah, it was one listed in the, but once we filed our interim compliance, then they released that grant money.
Great. Thanks.
So in terms of discussing what's before us tonight, I don't have any, other than the typo that we talked about, I didn't have any other changes to what's in front of us for the proposed section up through section BB. I do, however, have a proposed addition to what's in front of us, which I've drafted a sunset provision for this.
Yeah.
Given the uncertain state of what's going on in the legal landscape here, and the fact that the SJC has invalidated the guidelines once, and we're not clear if EOHLC is complying with the SJC's requirements, I think it makes sense to add a sunset provision to the proposal, which in effect would say, if for any reason the emergency regulations or any permanent regulations adopted in their place shall be deemed ineffective or invalid by a final judgment of the courts of the Commonwealth, or are changed or amended in such a manner as to alter the metrics in the regulations concerning unit capacity requirements as applied to the town of Wenham, that is, requiring other than 365 units for Wenham to be deemed in compliance. This zoning bylaw amendment concerning MFOD in accordance with 3A of Chapter 40A shall be voided of no legal effect and immediately rescinded without further action required from the town. So, and then the last sentence there says this, and we can debate both of these things or all of this separately, whatever. I threw in at the end that notwithstanding the severability paragraph, that this provision shall
It's
not be
inseverable.
severable. So my thinking behind this is that we're moving forward on the assumption that the regulations will be upheld, and that we're going to be required to meet 365 units in, and the land area requirements that are set forth in the guidelines. But if we're wrong about that assumption and they get invalidated again, I don't think we should be held to completely changing our zoning districts, because I think it's the unanimous position of this, but, well, I won't say that, Scott, because you weren't here when we last talked about this, but when we last talked about this, I think we all said that but for this mandate from the state, we would not be zoning these districts in this manner or for this amount of units.
Second to that.
So this is really an effort to try to make sure that we're not handcuffed to something that we don't want if we're not obligated to put it in place. So I'm sure that town council may weigh in on this and say that there's no way the Attorney General will approve this, or,
But I think that's a risk that we need to take.
Yes, and on that front, I mean, we don't necessarily have to keep the last sentence in. That, what that means is, if this fails, the whole thing fails, if they decide to throw out the sunset provision. So, but, you know, to play devil's advocate to the Attorney General here, it's, well, the only reason you'd throw this out is if we were right, right? And if we're right, then why would we be complying with regulations that are no longer in effect?
That are ultra vires, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in English,
Yes, and by the way, I have extra, if you want to, if we have extra
we
copies,
should
if you want to.
pass this out.
so.
And the language
in
that
English,
you're
if you-
speaking, just let me explain, since Margaret's handing it, that the language that we're adding is the last two paragraphs here, not, the first one is just explaining the status.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to, there may be a definition above that we need to put into the bottom paragraph, but, yeah.
So.
I don't know, you could actually
In
put the
English.
first
In English.
paragraph in if you wanted to.
Could we explain for everybody else what that paragraph means? So I understand it to be, if for some reason 3A gets overturned, all this gets pulled out of our zoning bylaws, and we go back to not having any
Correct.
multifamily districts in our town. We have ADUs by
Until
right,
we
until we create it
React.
create them thoughtfully.
organically. Correct.
In
Correct.
response to the master plan.
Public demand. Right.
Except technical correction, not 3A, the regulations.
It's the regulations. that we're
3A
talking
is not going into.
Oh,
about.
the-
No, because the court
promulgated-
has said 3A is
Yeah,
constitutional.
the statute is,
No. We shouldn't add if 3A gets stricken. I mean, if this unfunded mandate actually were to get carried out, then 3A would be gone. They'd have to readopt it.
okay, we can amend this, we can say.
I mean, I would humbly suggest, I mean, I think it's not just the regulations, and also, do we want the regulations in whole or in part, or just leave it as the regulations or permanent regulations, meaning whole?
Well, so, the reason that I broke that out into two things is, if they're deemed ineffective or invalid, they're not going to apply, meaning along the same lines as Milton, right? If a court does that,
Well, they invalidated them in whole.
right?
I mean, I wonder if there's going to be a tax on them, on specific aspects of them now, in the substantive way. Maybe that would invalidate them as a whole.
Isn't
Well,
that what the
this-
second part
Yeah,
is
that's
saying
what
here?
any permanent regulations adopted in their place. So in other words, the emergency regulations are out for public comment, right? So they could do something final that's different. And the way I would read any permanent regulations is not the whole of any permanent regulation, it's any of the permanent regulations adopted in their place. Is that what you
Yeah,
intended?
I think David's point was, what if there's a court decision that deems part of the regulations ineffective or invalid,
Like,
but
for
not
example,
all
But
of them?
then
Like the
any
amount.
of,
What if they're like, the 25% in numbers that doesn't make sense? Would that invalidate the entire regulation?
Well, that,
Wouldn't
so,
that change the units, though? So that's the second point here?
yeah, that's what I was trying to get at with,
exactly.
and two is really the more targeted point here, which is, we're assuming that we have to zone for 365 units in a particular density, in a particular location. And if we've supplied feedback to EOHLC, I know other towns have as well. If they, at some point, come out and say, all right, we're going to change our metrics, for example, Wenham, you're no longer an MBTA community, or you're no longer at 25%, you're now at your
10%.
15 or 10% level, then
Well,
we
you have
don't
to
need
do it
to
with Hamilton and do 15% in your,
then that would change the volume that we're zoning for, and I don't think that what we're proposing should necessarily continue on forever.
no, we'd have to start all over.
Right.
And it would be better to do that without having to go to town meeting again.
Well,
This would allow you
if
to
we
do-
did something new, we'd have to go to town meeting, but
Right, no, this takes it, this just wipes it.
Right. Start over.
Exactly. But if we wanted to change it after it was voted up, just assume it's voted in by town meeting. And later on, we wanted to change it. If we didn't have a provision like this, we would have to go back to town
Okay.
meeting, just like we do
Makes
for any
sense.
zoning amendment.
and we might need a 2/3 majority at that point.
Right. Right.
So I don't think we need to get into the weeds on this. I mean, if
We already
if this were, let's say this gets adopted at town meeting and this goes into effect, and there's a project that gets proposed or started, and then the regulations get invalidated, I mean, I'm sure that would be grandfathered because it's already underway. But I don't want to get bogged down in those kind of
I don't
details.
see that as terribly likely, but did you want to suggest adding language that discuss, before the phrase "the emergency regulations" or any permanent regulations, that says 3A, section 3A, or any, or the emergency regulation, or do you want to?
I think that would be, if for any reason, 3A,
So it would say,
General law, chapter
G
30,
period, L period,
chapter 40A,
Chapter
section
40A,
3A.
Section 3A. You could just do a C, that's fine.
Yeah, section 3A, yeah.
Yep.
um,
Or, no.
Comma, or,
Comma.
Okay.
Then put comma, and then put a comma after emergency regulations.
thank you.
Because Ann,
All right.
Like my Oxford commas.
do we want to give the CMR site on the regs, or is that too ridiculous?
I don't think so. I think leaving it broader is better.
yeah. So, towards the bottom of that paragraph where I said the zoning bylaw amendment, and I say concerning multifamily overlay district, whatever, we could probably put the reference to our bylaw in here. I just wasn't sure what that was at the time I wrote this.
Where do you see that going, Dan?
It says this zoning
So
bylaw
it says,
amendment.
And then put this page.
this zoning
You should
bylaw
just say
amendment
section
concerning.
blah-de-blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say this zoning bylaw amendment, section blank, whatever.
Right, and we're still,
Section.
we just discussed the section number 22, 25
255-12.1.
12.6.
.6, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know if you put it elsewhere because of the use table or something.
Yes, we do have a table of use change.
I don't know what section that is.
255, 4.2.
Is that in here? Is that in our,
It's on the first page. Page 1,
where?
right here, we're changing 255, 4.2 principal uses.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to add that? And, well, and technically, we're also changing 255, 3.2 to add in the list of districts. That's what 255, 3.2 is.
So we would have to say, okay, so I think we should say 255-3.2F.
Okay, so 255,
Do them in order.
3.2F.
Comma,
Mm-hmm.
255-4.2.
Two. Comma.
2.
Do we need to do that one? Because that's
Well, it's
just,
specifically
Or is
permitted in an
specifically
overlay district. If we do not have any overlay
Yeah.
districts.
we have overlay districts, other than MFODs.
True.
So it's, but if you, we've changed it 255, 4.2 principal uses and added it under as F.
Added it under as F.
So, yeah, so
In other words,
as,
of the list.
255, 4.2 principal uses, it's
Oh.
being added.
Oh, then just say
have to take it
4.2F
to F.
then. I thought the only change was
Capital
on
F.
page one.
Capital F.
4.2F.
Comma, and then 255-12.6.
And
Yeah, sorry.
255.
Comma and?
No, just.
Comma and,
Comma and?
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Commas and ands together.
I
She
think,
knows. She's. it's for
I think we should add, in the second, are we done with that one?
Well, I was just gonna say, we don't, I don't think we need the rest of that concerning multifamily overlay district in accordance with 3A.
Because you named it in the-
Because we just named the.
Yeah, and the sections.
Can I go back to the first line? Instead of the GL chapter, just get rid of the "the," because it's not that we're describing the regulations, it's the chapter itself that
Well,
we're
it should
talking
be
about.
the emergency regulations.
Yeah, and okay, the emergency
So if Rennie
regulations.
isn't, okay, 3A, comma, the,
The emergency regulations,
okay.
or any permanent
And
regulation.
then
doesn't matter.
deemed, I think it should be deemed ineffective,
Deemed.
comma, unenforceable,
Yeah,
comma,
or
or
invalid.
invalid, comma, is my proposal.
I don't know about the
In
comma after
whole-
invalid, but
In whole
whatever.
or in part,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
or if you want in whole or in material part, but I would say in whole or
Well,
in part, comma.
If you put material in there,
I don't
then
think
you
I need
gotta
that
determine what's a
last
material.
one.
Well, I think this subclause is also going to give the AG some real heartburn
Of course.
if you say in part.
Can we speak into the microphones? I think people are having a little trouble hearing.
If we say in whole or in part, it's going to give the AG some heartburn. I mean, maybe it will anyway, so let's just ride, and say in whole or in part, comma,
Comma.
by a final judgment of the courts.
I don't know if you need that.
And the reason I
comma
put
part, but
final judgment in there is, I mean, it's gonna have to be either an unappealed Superior Court decision or an appellate court or SJC decision.
Well, it could also be a federal court.
Well, fine.
Do we want to say that? By a court,
where would
with
the federal court
jurisdiction.
jurisdiction come from?
it could be 14th Amendment, it could be 1983, it could be any possible place.
So, what do you think? You want to change it
Courts,
instead of
Don't
the
think
comma
that's
one?
I don't know, we,
I don't think we're gonna need the federal.
okay.
I don't see it, but
But Margaret, what I was gonna say is in
Yep.
the third from the bottom of that paragraph where it says concerning,
Yep.
I think you can take out concerning all the way to 40A on the next line because we just defined what
just
this
defined
zoning
it,
bylaw
yes.
amendment is.
right.
Wait, say concerning multifamily overlay district?
Yep.
Yeah,
all the way
everything to shall.
This way?
Everything until 40A
Okay.
you can take out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. And you need, I think you need a comma after bylaw amendment and after 12.6.
After bylaw
The
amendment,
zoning bylaw
comma,
amendment, comma,
12.6, comma,
comma.
Yep.
okay?
Yeah, because that says what we're talking about.
So the net effect of this is if this gets thrown out in court, our overlay district, should it be voted up, is gone, without a need to go back to town meeting.
Yeah, so the effect of the last sentence, though, is if we keep this that says this provision is not severable, and the AG throws out our bylaw amendment because of this provision, then she's effectively throwing out our entire bylaw amendment.
Our entire bylaw amendment concerning 3A.
Yes, 3A,
Yeah,
yeah.
not the whole
Right.
zoning
Right.
bylaw, but just the amendment concerning 3A, just to be clear.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if we don't have that sentence in at the end, and she says, this sunset provision is not enforceable, then because we have section
Then we
BB,
can't use it.
then we can't use it.
Can't
So-
rely on it.
So that's the other side of the coin. I just want to be clear what that means.
Right.
So you comfortable with that line? Okay.
I like it.
I like it.
Okay, great. All right, we will,
Can I just say that we don't necessarily need the first paragraph, but
It's
we can keep it
It's
because
history.
right, because it's explaining why we're putting this in, and
Yep.
frankly, if the select board sends this back to us, if this goes to town meeting, I think it might be useful to have that paragraph.
do you want to have that paragraph in the actual zoning bylaw then? Or do you want to use that paragraph in your commentary?
Your call, Dan.
Well, I mean, I think it's the board's call here.
It's the purpose of
think
the
it should be in
sunset
there.
provision. It's the
Yes.
purpose.
Okay.
I think
So-
it needs explanation, because
I
in
feel
5 or 10
maybe-
years from now, if everybody forgets this,
Oh,
it's in there.
I don't, forget it, but it would help maybe in the first sentence to add, the purpose of this provision is
Sure.
something, 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 because in January 2025,
Feel free.
What do you think?
the purpose of this sunset provision,
Purpose of this what?
this provision,
Okay.
is to ensure,
I'm not sure where you're going yet, so I can't.
no, I'm just trying to explain
It's backspace.
what the point of the first paragraph is, and introduce it a little bit. But maybe that's just adding words that don't need to be there. That's where my mind is going right now.
I think it's fine, and just starting out with in January,
Yeah, let's leave it.
Okay.
I think
Or you could say purpose,
colon.
Purpose colon. yeah.
Okay.
purpose colon.
in sub 2 in the second paragraph, I think we should add in the little after Romanet 2, or whatever you want to call that. I think it should be repealed,
Say that, I'm sorry.
comma, and what's the verb when you ditch a regulation? You repeal a law, but
You know, you rescind,
repeal,
you rescind.
comma, rescind.
Sorry, Dave, could you tell me
Before
again?
changed.
Before
Yeah.
changed?
I would put repealed.
Repealed, comma,
Repeal.
Yield, comma, rescinded.
RESC, yep, comma.
Just keep in
Comma.
mind that all of these verbs are
They mean the same
being
thing.
modified by the
Comma
metric
after
change.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry,
changed,
repealed,
comma, or
rescinded,
amended.
changed, comma,
Or
or
amended.
amended.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't repeal it to alter the metrics, so maybe that doesn't make sense.
Well, if
I mean,
3A
I
is
guess it
repealed,
Technically does alter
Yeah.
the metrics.
it would alter the metrics.
Okay,
I mean, you could say as to actually or effectively alter the metrics.
I think you're good.
Hey,
What?
when you're drafting legislation, you got to be precise, man. It will be in a mess down the road.
There's one comma,
Need
if
another
you want to be hyper-technical, after IE,
Yeah, you
there
need
should be
one
a
there.
comma after the period in E.
I.e., comma,
IE
requiring.
Next.
i.e., comma.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nope, after, there you go.
yeah.
But who's going to say that the comma shouldn't be italicized? All right,
Me.
so we're doing good.
Oh, you want me to, I will unitalicize that comma, I'm sorry.
I'm just
Thank you.
being nuts.
Thank you
This
for
is
putting
just a
that.
draft. It's not how it's going to be.
Right.
The final
And-
version.
Oh, is that
Can you tell
right?
the difference between the
Yeah.
italics from here and not?
Yeah, oh yeah, okay, this is something that we
Yeah.
deal with all the
That's why
time
I'm
when we're
asleep, 'cause
proofreading.
comments are like,
We
in
do this
journalism,
all the
this is-
time. It's
you have way
terrible.
too many comments.
I mean, if we send this to the select board, it's going to come back to us. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to have an opportunity to change whatever's
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Let's just get it going.
So,
Yeah, so this is a draft, so,
Mechanically, can we send these together? Do we need to send what was sent originally and then this separately?
well, mechanically,
insert
this
it.
This is the
is
latest.
added here.
Okay, we can add it right now, though, so I guess what I...
Yeah.
Yes.
So I will add this language to the end of the draft
we
that
need-
we have.
Move
Well,
it in, or do we?
Vote it.
Yeah, because,
To them.
well, no, because we
you're-
haven't
you-
voted
you
on
have
this
not-
yet.
You have not decided yet on what the draft is. So you're going over the draft tonight, I'll make those changes, and then you're going to vote to initiate it to the select board.
Tonight.
And then
Tonight,
they
and then-
decide whether,
Yeah,
well,
we'll
that's
send
what
it,
we're
and
doing
I'll send it to them
tonight.
tomorrow. I'll put all this language
Then
together.
they decide whether to send it back to us for
Yes,
hearing.
for a public hearing.
And the reason this is called CC is because if you turn to page 12 of
Very
the
last.
thing, you can see the last number, lettered section is BB, severability, which talks about what happens if any provision of this,
So do we just want to move
It's
that we
held
add this
invalid.
to our existing draft?
Yes, I think we need to.
yes, I
add
think
that.
we should do that, we should have a
I'd
vote
like to
on
make a
that.
motion to add to the, what is it called here officially? Town of Wenham zoning bylaw amendment, multifamily overlay district, section CC sunset provision as edited tonight. Does that make sense? Am I putting it in the right spot?
I think that's good. After BB on page 12.
After BB.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Weeks, aye.
Pascarello, aye.
Woodland, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schoenberger, aye.
Okay.
Woohoo. Now we need to make a motion to pass this on
To
to
the
the select board if we're ready. Are we ready?
Do you want to ask for comment?
Oh,
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to ask for comment there? I think there
I
are
mean-
some folks here.
Do we have, are there, not a public hearing, so we're happily, we're happy to take limited comment. The podium's here.
South Celeste, 20 Puritan
Yeah,
Road.
you're going to have to say it again, I'm sorry. into
Celeste,
the
20 Puritan Road.
Right.
What I'm seeing here, I see tacit compliance. That's what I see. Now, I find it a little bit disingenuous that you overlooked or glazed over the auditor's opinion. Now, it is an opinion. Just let me say my piece here, okay? I find it strange because you guys are represented, okay, by the same law firm that is asking for an exemption. Now, the exemption, you don't get it if you don't ask for it. And I want to go on record that you should be asking for it, because if that passes muster with the court, and they find that this is indeed an unfunded mandate, then we are entitled to an exemption. If we don't petition the court with the towns of Marshfield, Duxbury, and Middleborough, we're not going to get the exemption. Now, here's what I find weird about it. The same law firm that is representing those three towns and the same attorney represents this town, too. I find it hard to believe that she is not counseling this town the same way. And she's going over to Hamilton next Thursday, and she's going to be, what's her name, Amy Queasel. She's going to be counseling them to file for the exemption. Can you guys look at me and tell me that she has not counseled you to file an exemption in the possibility?
She
that
doesn't
then-
represent the town of Wenham. Our attorney is Robin Stein.
But it's KP Law, right?
Right, but
Yep, so
every
you're
lawyer...
You're telling me that KP
every
Law has
lawyer
not
has a-
counseled
we have-
this town?
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to your point here that you're raising, wrong board.
I understand, but you're
not-
making-
it's-
you guys
hold
are
on,
making the
hold on, Mr.
recommendation.
Celeste, just hold on a second. In terms of filing for the exemption, that's the select board, it's not us. So I'm just.
Oh, I
But
see.
you guys are making the recommendation, and you're making this recommendation for Sunset, and everything that you do here, okay, gets passed on to that planning board. And the planning board,
Get passed on to the select board.
I mean, the select board, and, I'm sorry, onto the select board. You have that influence. And I'm trying to find out, because you guys know what's going on. I know you all do. okay? You're telling me that KP Law has not counseled this town to enjoin with Hamilton and these other 3 towns for an exemption? I find that crazy.
We have not heard that from KP Law to this board. That is all we can tell
Okay,
you.
can we find out what
I think you should ask the
counsel-
select board. I mean, I'm telling you, we have not been counseled that way by
Okay.
KP Law.
Yeah, we were at that meeting last week, and we got the same business, and we're getting the same thing here. And we're getting pretty frustrated with this, because it seems like this is all a foregone conclusion. It's almost like you guys are dying for 3A to come through.
It's a mandate. It is true
not-
that it is a mandate.
It's
Please-
only a mandate, okay, if it passes constitutional muster and if it passes legal muster. And so far, it hasn't. It's been challenged. And now there's an opportunity for us to get this exemption in. At the very least, this town should be at least petitioning for the exemption, because if 3A happens here, we don't have the infrastructure for what's going to happen here. We can't afford this.
If you want the town to make that petition, you need to ask the select board. for
And
that.
we do.
That is-
I talk until I'm blue in the
Well,
face.
that's wonderful. I appreciate that. I'm happy to have
Well, I just
people
wanted to get on
part of
record
the process. I appreciate
today,
it.
so you guys understand it. And I do find it, and I'm not the only
I
one.
want to clarify one thing, though, because you said, if the auditor's opinion gets upheld, if the auditor's opinion gets upheld, then 3A goes away.
3A doesn't necessarily go away. You have to file for an exemption for it to go away.
When the auditor's opinion.
Right. But if you don't have the exemption in, okay, then we're not eligible for the exemption. And I'm trying to find out why 4 towns thought it was a good idea to do it, and this town didn't or hasn't, but is represented by the same law firm.
I
And our
hear what you're
sister
saying.
town
Yes,
is
we
doing
hear
the
you.
exact same thing, but they're getting counseled in that way. Call
Yes.
them up.
Appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Please, podium. Although there's
Hold
something,
for a minute till we get
Yeah.
this fixed.
we may need to wait for a moment.
Technical difficulties?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It might be a battery backup.
It might be tired of hearing about 3A.
Smoke. It's something to do with the battery.
Okay.
I don't know if I shut it off, I might shut off the power, so.
Well, I don't know how we can continue with that noise, so.
Let me see if I can. See if it's
Close
on.
the door?
No. I think that lets him do his job.
It's up top.
My advice is always turn it off and turn it on again, but I'm not sure that's the right answer here.
Can we just make an announcement? Can we just,
You have a useful profession.
yeah, and can we just make an announcement if we're losing technology, just so it's recorded locally?
Yeah. I had it, something's wrong, and
So,
I shut the system off, so we lost the recording. We get to start it again.
so HW Cam, we can see, is frozen if we look up on the screen.
Yeah, no.
Are we still on Zoom?
No, because I had killed the power.
Oh, okay.
Well, we said in the beginning of the meeting that if technology fails, we'll still keep going.
So let's keep going.
I just don't know how to turn off.
the battery right now on the APC.
Yeah.
There's no power going to that,
Right, so nobody gets to hear what our
rack mount.
problems are.
They're yodeling in a bucket.
We get to hear you.
We get to hear you. We're sitting here.
Let me put the screen on, I'll shut the closet door.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So are we're not recording now, and it's not broadcasting or being?
She will be in a second. It's just that we're not broadcasting and we're not
The people that are home aren't hearing anything.
Zooming.
I think we're still Zooming.
So what is the status, the current status of the broadcast in the Zoom? Can someone just clarify that?
Broadcast is still going.
The broadcast is still going,
They're still on TV.
Can
but
we
the
check with
Zoom
the-
and the recording are not?
Peggy or Paul, can you hear us?
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, let me go back onto the Zoom now.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, they said yes.
They said yes.
We appreciate that.
No, that was you.
No,
No, with Peggy and Paul.
And on the
muted.
top of the Zoom screen, it says it's recording.
But that's on her, that's on somebody's laptop here, not outside the building.
If you want to confirm with Peggy and Paul.
Or anybody.
I sent her a message, Peggy and Paul a message, just to
Okay,
say.
so I just gotta join the,
Recording in progress.
Yes.
We're back, hey, we're back.
Okay.
I'm back.
so we're back on Zoom.
Yes.
All right, looks like.
Now I need your name and address for the record.
I want to say we lost.
Marjorie Gajeski, 7 Perkins Street. What I have written here, some of it he has talked about, so I'll just go over it quickly, but it's regarding asking for the exemptions. And everyone sitting here, your duly elected board, it's your fiduciary obligation to protect the town of Wenham from onerous bankrupting financial impact that will cripple the town. It sounds like somebody who has a job to do and somebody mentions, well, did you check this? If somebody's computer, not because of that, but if somebody's computer goes down and no one asks, did you see if it was plugged in? You know, is it because it's not my job or not your job, you can't bring it to the selectmen and say, hey, what about the exemption? Nobody here can do that? Like, is it out of your job description, or because you know the town wants an exemption, but nobody seems to want to be able to be that person to go to the selectmen and say, hey, give it a shot. Can I ask what the warrant and the special town meeting in June is? Do we have any dialogue before that? Is this to vote for or against?
So between, what happens, here's what the process is. Right now, all we're doing is sending the papers to the select board.
Right.
There's another step in which they decide what to do with that. And that step would be, they either send it back to us for a public hearing, which we have to hold before it can go on the town warrant, right? Because we have to then have a public hearing and vote to recommend it to the town, which we haven't done yet, or vote not to recommend it to the town, okay? So that's the point in the process, after the public hearing, when we would make that kind of a
And
decision.
this is all before June 5th,
9th, I
or
think.
whatever the date is?
9th.
9th. Okay.
And then it would go to, if the select board sends it back to us, and if, after the public hearing, we vote to put it on, that it should go back to them, yes, we recommend that it go on the warrant, then they would make a decision to put it on the warrant, and we would have a special town meeting, and the town would vote. That's the process. I know it's like step 1, and then step 2, and then step 3,
So
but
when
that
does
is the process.
when does this exemption get a chance to be talked about?
You can talk about it with the select board after we send this up, if we in fact do
I
tonight.
did last week. I said,
But they don't have anything in front of them yet, but they will when we send this up to them to make a
Would
decision
you-
about whether to send it back.
would you put somewhere in your report that we are asking for an exemption through this select board because that's where we were told it would happen?
I'm not
Can
going to
somebody
talk,
tell them
I'm not going to speak for the board and say the board would ask for that. I'm not sure what you're, are you asking us to vote to add language like that?
To ask them to do it.
Okay, that would be a separate vote that we'd have to have a conversation about. I can't promise you what the other 4 people sitting here will do.
Well, I have another item too, that is, we're broke, we're borrowing free cash, we don't make our budget very well, we're facing a $142 million bond for the school, we're facing overrides for the teachers, new contracts, and both schools need roofs, the high school and the middle school. So that also is here, and an unfunded mandate. You said they're not going to fund infrastructure, which that certainly is going to need. And I have asked since last summer, where are the reports from the police, the fire, the water, the DPW, traffic, infrastructure, to say, if we do this in these areas, what are the ramifications? But I still get the answer last week with, well, we're not there yet.
Well, you
But what
heard
does it
tonight
take
the
to-
conversation about setting up a committee to have a financial impact analysis for the town of Wenham done before
So
this goes to the
when
public.
would that happen?
Well, this is what we were discussing tonight. It's being set up
Okay,
now.
so we're March.
Because we have a consultant who worked on the master plan who did an analysis of what these kinds of districts cost and benefit the town, because they have benefits too.
It's just amazing that none of this has been done before, and everybody's trying to push it through. Nobody wants it. And even if we put businesses underneath houses, units, thinking you're going to get a good tax income in it, you're not unless you have the Cummings Center in town. None of those little pennies will help in anything. If our housing numbers, units increase, our low-income 40B will go below 10%, and then we're going to be faced with more building that we have to do. We all moved here for the small town, and so many others did, and we'd like our village protected, and I believe that's what your jobs are, to keep our town running good. Now, what happens after this? What's the amendment that they get, that the selectmen get? Something changed from what we've known before?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
An amendment means things are changed.
We discussed tonight?
Yeah.
But
The only
this
thing
is
we
the
added
zoning
tonight,
bylaw.
we added one provision at the end, which was the sunset provision.
Do we know, does the public have this
We just-
amendment information?
Yes.
We handed it to
Except for
you.
that little piece, that's just an...
That's all it is. It's just an add-on to what we already
But
have
what you
done.
added it on to, do we have that?
Yeah.
Margaret?
The draft will be on the town's website tomorrow. The original draft had been on the town's website for the past year when they were working on it for the fall. All of that information is the same, except that
Adding
this
the
new
sunset provision.
section is being added. So that language
Thank
has
you.
not
I
changed.
still have a hard time even getting anything on there.
Well, we just got a new website started.
Yeah.
And I
looks
think I
great.
probably had sent that to you, but I can send it to you again.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yep, I
appreciate
can email that.
What happens if we vote and then they find out the unfunded mandate is thrown out? If we vote yes on this, if the town does somehow vote yes, are they going to say, well, you voted yes, we can't go back?
Well, that's why we have the sunset provision. Because basically, if this gets thrown out, if 3A gets thrown out, or the regulations get thrown out, or any part of the regulations get thrown out, or get changed in a way so that Wenham doesn't have to do 356 units, which I agree with you is too many.
Okay, and that's even if we've voted for some reason
Yes.
at
it
town
gets-
meeting?
It gets voided, voided.
That's the intent of the sunset provision.
That's the hope. That's the whole point.
We can't say how receptive the Attorney General will be to our addition of the sunset provision, but
What's the best way for me to get to have the selectmen do the exemption? Who do I see and how?
Margaret?
Because it keeps
Yeah.
getting back and forth, and it's not going...
Yeah, and I don't think that the select board would, you would have to just ask the select board if they would file for an exemption. And then they have to make that decision.
Okay.
I
and
don't
who-
believe that what we're sending them, the draft motion for the article, is going to impact that decision for them. What they do is what they will do. But they're the ones who would have to file for it. I think that's the best way, just to ask the select board to file for the exemption, and then they'll give you an answer as to whether they will or
Okay,
not.
And how do I get to them? Who?
Steve Poulos, the
The
town administrator.
is Stephen,
Steve Poulos?
Poulos.
Yep, he's our town
And
administrator.
he can,
And
if-
simply ask that,
Yeah, and send a request that the select board do that, and then I believe they would respond to you in some way. I
okay.
can't guarantee it, though, Marjorie, because
I
we
know.
don't manage that board, but I think that's really the only way to get that
So
answer.
I spoke with one of the members of the select board on this topic, and my understanding is, as a planning board, we do not have the authority to request the
No.
exemption. It falls to the select board to make those decisions.
Right.
They make the decision about bringing litigation, asking for exemptions, that kind of stuff. So that's the board that you have
Okay,
to
I
have.
just, because I keep asking and don't get anywhere. I just want to get someplace, and I
Yep.
thank you.
Well, I think too that once it gets there and they have the chance to gnaw on it, right now, they're talking hypotheticals and hearing from you, but they don't have it in front of them. And once they have something to chew on, and that's an appropriate time too, to say whatever it is you have to say to them about it. Because again, this is like a multi-step process. We recommend it to them to initiate it. They send it back
Right.
to us, we hold a hearing, then we have to send it back to them.
And we do have
before it
lawyers
goes
that
on.
we can use that have done it, so
We
it's,
do.
ditto, 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 sign, and,
Yeah, I must say, I don't know the ins and outs of the exemption and who can get it and who is eligible
Okay.
for it. I don't know
Okay.
that, so I can't really comment on that, but
will-
David, do you had a point you wanted to make?
Well, I just want to comment on one point you made.
Yeah.
Because I think throughout this MBTA process, I was talking with people in Boston the other day about this, unrelated to Wenham, just generally. And the consensus from the entire Commonwealth is that there's been a lack of reliable information. And so I do think that we as a board have a duty to correct misconceptions. And one thing that I would point out was a point you made, which is that our SHI will fall below 10%.
yeah.
And we were very intentional in drafting this regulation to meet the standard that 10% of any developed units must be affordable. That means that if 365 units were developed, 36 would have to be affordable. Now, that's slightly less than 10%, but that's the best we can do.
Right.
However, that would bring down our percentage in terms of the SHI, but it would not bring it under 10%. So I don't want people to think that this would bring us out of compliance or under 10% with 40B,
Even if it were fully developed out?
even if it were fully developed.
Seems
Are these
unlikely.
units to be bought, or are they rentals?
It-
I mean, there's nothing.
It
Doesn't,
depends on the development.
it doesn't say,
it's all
there's
under the
no,
developer
we don't
who does-
control that part of it.
But we do own the land, some of the land in the Boulder development. The town will be the owner of that land and control development. So I think that's an important piece as well. But what I want to be sure is clear is the regulations as we've drafted them are intentional to ensure that we are above the 10% threshold. So the argument or the claim that we would fall under the 10% because of this is not true.
Okay.
I also,
And I understand, but
Yeah,
we
general
have to
math.
start getting good information out into the community. And I would just also add that your points about getting information from the departments are extremely important to understand fiscal impact. But I would also query the question based on the information that the town has from Cambridge Econometrics and the master plan, which is on the website. I know the website, even in the new form, can be difficult to navigate, but it's an eye-opening document that I encourage everybody to read. And one of the thoughts by that expert, I'm not saying it's unimpeachable, but I'm saying the thought by that expert is that a mixed-use development tends to have a net positive fiscal impact on the town. Now, I'm open for everyone to say that that is a false assumption, his analysis was wrong, let's have that conversation. But that analysis said that it was a positive fiscal impact on the town. I think we have to look at that and consider, does that change the spirit behind your comments? If we do have a quote-unquote broke town, is there a benefit if there's a net fiscal positive impact from having a mixed-use development?
Okay, I know now already, the water in my kitchen sink does not run the full force it used to. The toilets don't flush. the tubs don't fill as quickly. So I don't know why.
I'm having problems on Main Street across the street from you on my water pressure, so I'm about ready to call Eric Mansfield and find out what's going on, because I think our water line is being corrupted.
Well,
Which
yeah,
makes
maybe
me-
it is, but like, you can't dole out more water than you have.
Right,
Yeah.
and then I think that's a valid point, which is why some of this may just be a paper exercise, but.
We have not enough water to
I
add
think,
new people.
I also want to follow up on this, because we've done the best job we can to make sure that the density in downtown is the minimum it can be. If we followed the statute to the letter, it would be much higher in the overlay district. And I'm not sure that everybody really understands that. We have put a lot of density out on town-owned land so the town has some control over the development. And we have minimized the amount of density to the maximum extent we can in the downtown area. And we can do that as a result of the guidelines, but if the guidelines are voided, all of that goes away. So we're back to square one, but we
Thank
don't
you
know
so
where we're
much.
going. So, and anyway, just so you know, I think we need to just make that, to David's point about good information, that needs to be made clear, I think.
Can I get 45 more seconds?
I'm going to give Mr. Anderson 45 more seconds.
There's been a lot of discussion about, and that's cool. I get it, and I would probably say the same thing if I were in your place, about a breach of a fiduciary duty or responsibility by this board. But what's been very interesting in the post-Milton opinion reports, I read an interesting thing in the Commonwealth Beacon by a ZBA member from Milton, who was part of the team that took it on. And she said, she bemoaned, I'm paraphrasing, we spent $300,000 to find out that it was constitutional and enforceable by the AG. And all it did was kick compliance by essentially 6 months. You know, we as a town, so this board doesn't have the jurisdiction to say this, but we as a town have to consider, you know, what's at stake. We almost lost $65,000 in valuable funding.
This board did, just this board.
For critical planning and town use monies. We almost lost $65,000. I hope we get it dispersed before the compliance deadline, so we don't lose it again.
Do we have it? Do we have it?
We have to sit here.
Police, fire, water, and all belong to this town, so they should be able to give an idea on what's going to happen.
And school, it is a key point.
And school.
And you know, it's a key point, so it's well taken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and I appreciate it.
Clarification, I would just like,
You got to go to the.
You have to go to the mic. You have to go to.
No,
No, you have to go to the
We can't
mic.
hear you on the recording.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but there are people at home who can't hear
In the
you.
select board actually interfaces with legal counsel in this town? Is it the entire board, or is it one individual? Is it Mr. Clay? Is it?
Need to
who is
ask
that?
the select
That's the
board that
problem that we're
question.
having. We're not getting these
knows,
answers.
None of us knows the answer to that. Steve Poulos is the town administrator. I think this line of conversation needs to be taken
Okay.
up with him.
All right, thank you.
So I make a motion that we refer.
Wait.
Are there people
Hold on,
online who want to
hold on.
speak?
Oh, there are?
Well, I don't know if they want to speak. I don't see any hands up.
I just want to make one comment about the plan that we're proposing, that it does have the benefit with respect to, I think it's MFOD 2, which is the Boulder Lane district. It has the benefit of being consistent with the Boulder Lane feasibility study, which recommended years ago that the highest and best use of that property was, I think, multifamily residential, right?
Or mixed use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see any hands up online.
Could I just reiterate the importance of reading the master plan and finding out some of the financial data out of that? Because we're not going to build our way out of the financial dilemma we're in. Even if we were to attract 2 Walmart-sized buildings here in town, we've got to find a spot. Even if we did that, it would only reduce our property taxes between 50 and 75 cents per thousand. So the scale of building that we have to do in this town is just beyond the town's ability to find the space to do it. So we need to be looking for other solutions as well. Okay, thank you.
I agree, Rick, and I think the master plan is important because when I went back and looked at it, what was written, what did we hear as a top theme from the community? Quote, housing emerged as a top concern for community members, particularly concerning affordability, availability, and diversity of housing types for the needs of existing residents and new neighbors. I'm not saying I love these regulations. I'm not even sure that I would vote for them at town meeting. But it is the sense of this community that there needs to be a diversification of the housing stock, both in price, affordability, and type of unit. That is the sense of the community.
Right.
We heard that through over 800 community touch points.
Thanks. All right,
So, just a
Process.
question, a process question, Margaret.
Yep.
I have language for proposing a referral to the select board, but I think do we need a motion first to sort of adopt what we're going to propose to the select board because we amended it tonight? No?
No.
Okay, fine.
No.
Then
then you need
I
to
will,
change the language of that
We,
motion.
you did just motion to
Accept the-
Accept
to
the
amend it,
changes.
to add section C. So that covers that. And then now you just need to vote to send it off to the select board to
well, just
initiate.
out of an abundance of
process.
caution,
Yeah,
I'm going to make a
sure.
motion that we approve tonight as the proposed amendment,
The language.
the language we have considered tonight as amended with the addition of section CC.
Second that motion. I think we should approve this as a team.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Woodland, aye. Oh, go ahead, how you want to go?
Go ahead.
Woodland, aye.
Pascarello, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schelberger, aye.
And I move that the planning board initiate proposed amendments to the town's zoning bylaw relative to compliance with general law, chapter 40A, section 3A, by submitting to the select board the proposed amendments in the form reviewed and approved by the planning board this evening.
No, I'll second that as well. Okay, is that a discussion?
Well, you seconded it. Is there any discussion about that? The motion? Hearing none, we can go for a vote. All in favor? Woodland?
Aye?
Pascarello, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schelberger, aye.
Margaret, do you have any information about when the select board will meet to discuss this?
I'm going to give it to them tomorrow, and I think it's on their agenda for Tuesday.
Okay, so,
I did ask the town administrator to put it on their agenda for Tuesday.
Do we have to ask them to do anything, like,
no.
Yeah, and in the
is there a
memo.
formal memo
Yep,
that you
I'll
put
send them
out?
a memo,
Okay.
and it will include your motion and also what we're asking them to do, which is refer it back to you if that's what they want to do by a certain time frame to get it onto the town meeting.
Would it be helpful as well to send the minutes from tonight's meeting, although that we won't have had a chance to
I
approve
wouldn't
them?
have them by tomorrow.
Yeah.
They-
Oh, yeah, by
they- no,
tomorrow,
they won't.
forget it.
They won't need them, the minutes right now. We can have them on record later, though, if they do decide.
Okay.
But, and it's up to them on Tuesday to vote to refer it back to you to hold a public hearing.
Okay. I think I will plan to be there on Tuesday.
we should maybe check, is anybody else planning on being there? Do we have to post it
Oh,
as
yeah.
a meeting?
Ooh. Is anyone else going to the selects on Tuesday?
What's the date?
It's the 18th.
18th. If it's just two of us.
I could sit it out.
I can.
I'm good.
Are you guys providing a report on something? No.
No.
I'll try to make it. That would,
Okay,
that would make two of us.
That would make two of us.
And if I can't, if anybody else wants to go, okay. Are they at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
They usually start at 6 with an executive session, and then they open it at 6:30.
Okay.
But we can confirm that.
All right. All right, and then the next item on here is preparation for a special town meeting, or you have two items
Yes.
on MBTA?
Well, I put on the first one because it was a particular motion, you had to make a motion and vote. And the next one I put on in case you wanted to have any other outside discussion about things that.
I'm not going to try to
It's not. It's
silence
not
anybody,
important.
but I think we've had
I think we covered this one.
Yeah, I think so, too.
discussion on this, so.
Um,
So then the next question is preparation for special town meeting, June 9th, 2025.
Hold on, wait, if we go back one, just real quick, has Hamilton, what are they doing? Do we know? Have they put forward anything?
No, I don't believe they have. I think they
They're
were.
asking for an exemption?
I think they were
Heard
applying
tonight.
for interim compliance, the last I heard, but I don't know whether they have or not. I think there was a
There's a
letter
letter.
from their town administrator.
I read this in HW News.
Yeah, I did too. I saw something in
But
the
they were
HW
gonna
News.
drop the form-based zoning?
Not sure. I don't have that information. We can ask.
According to HW News, their town administrator sent a letter, which was basically like the public comment to the regulations, basically saying that Hamilton should get some exemption
Yeah, it's an exemption.
because they have, no, not that kind of, not the unfunded
Yeah.
mandate exemption.
Oh.
Because of the seminary property, you can't count educational space as part of your multifamily units, but they have a unique situation where they may be purchasing some of that property, I think, and converting the dormitories into.
40B.
Yeah, right, so that,
Right.
they were raising those issues, but I'm not aware of any plan they've put forward to.
And they get a lot of money that could be in jeopardy, like over $1 million, don't they? In grant funding?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not our problem.
Well,
They also raised the issue that, oh, you'll like this part, we share the radius with Wenham. And in their letter, I found this amusing because they pointed out that 90% of the station is in Wenham, not in Hamilton. I'm not saying that's accurate,
agree that
but that was in
that's
the,
true.
that was in their letter.
Just the
Because we were
flap
questioning
one.
at our last meeting how much of the station is
Is
in
in
Wenham as
Hamilton.
opposed to Hamilton, so.
great. So Margaret,
Yep.
I mean, as the regulations do it, they treat us both, there's
they
no,
pay us separately.
well, there's no allocation. They
No.
treat us as both having to be 100% compliant.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. That's
The-
what's
Right,
wrong
but-
about this.
That was
We
our
don't-
first objection.
We don't get the full circle.
To spread them out.
Right.
To spread them
Yeah.
out.
But we
But the
still have-
numbers would still be the same.
Yeah, exactly, okay.
Yeah. And I put the next item on to talk about the schedule.
Yes.
Over the next month.
Yes.
I think I had said to you, we talked about May 1st for your public hearing for this MBTA for the June 9th. That's cutting it really close for the warrant to get to the printer. So I'm wondering if we could talk about some other dates, but I just want to let you know, there are a couple of things that are happening. Spring Hill Farm had been on your agenda, but it was
Right.
moved.
But they are not ready, so.
No, but they anticipate being ready to request their street acceptance again for the June town
The
meeting.
June meeting.
Yes. So, but there's also a public hearing that has to happen because of the easement issue that I think you had been aware of. Town council did tell us that needs to have a public hearing. So I need to determine a date for that public hearing first, and then another date to have the MBTA public hearing.
It'd be the
That'll be
same night?
It will be a very, very,
It's
very
up
long.
to
Well, But
you.
the Spring Hill's not going to be
Correct.
controversial.
I don't think it'll be controversial.
No, it's not that it's controversial. It could be a bit time consuming, but I don't know that's controversial. If you want, okay. The other issue is the street acceptance. So there's the public hearing for the easement, then there's the
Street
public hearing for MBTA, for the zoning amendment, then there's the street acceptance. That's not a public hearing, it just has to be on your regular meeting agenda. What my thought is that you would want to make a decision on this easement issue before you make your recommendation for street acceptance.
When will they be ready
Does
for
that
the
make
public hearing on the easement?
That should be ready within the next week. I should have everything I need, and I can post the public hearing notice in the Hamilton Wenham News. Today, I just want to look at my calendar real quick. Today is the 13th. If I post it in the Hamilton Wenham News on March 21st, because they only run on Fridays, you can hold a public hearing anytime after April 4th. So you could hold the public hearing
Easement.
for the easement.
That's not going to be time consuming.
No, that will not be time.
But you can also do the MBTA public hearing if you choose to on the same night as that.
Fine.
You can't do the 10th because there's an election that day, so I guess we can't hold.
And I won't be here for the 10th anyway,
Okay.
so.
Would you consider the 16th, because Dan can't do the 17th? Any later, and then we're running into, but, oh, wait a minute, let me
The
back up.
16th is what day of the week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
But you will still have to have another meeting to make the recommendation for street acceptance.
Before
Right,
May
but
1st.
Remember that,
Yes.
so 17, 18, 19, 20 is Easter weekend. The following week is April vacation.
Correct.
So I think we should try to have the public hearing for MBTA before April vacation, before Easter. So I would
16th?
suggest the 16th if we can all do it. And I think we should all try to be here for this.
Yeah.
So. for
I can do the
would
16th,
be
but not the
MBTA
17th.
Public hearing
Mhm.
meeting, but we don't, so,
And the recommendation for street acceptance, but that would require us to have a public hearing on the
I think we should do
easement earlier.
Spring Hill another night, maybe
Would you
April
like this?
30th.
Oh, later.
When you talk about Spring Hill, do you mean the public hearing for the easement?
And a recommendation.
They should not, I don't know if you want to do those on the same night.
Why not? If we approve the easement, then we can move on to the
Okay.
street acceptance.
Okay,
I
all
don't know,
right.
what do other people
Well,
think?
You comfortable with that? Because you want to we have to get our recommendations to the select board.
I
would
just,
say-
I feel like we need
Wednesdays.
like a dose of timeline reality for the Spring Hill thing. So the public hearing on the easement, the reason we have a public hearing is because they're moving the location of
Closing.
the easement,
Yeah.
right? We're not going to be approving an easement. I don't think they're going to have the easement ready to go. That still has to go through council before the easement is finalized.
You'd
You
be
know, they're trying to
approving,
bake a cake in 30 minutes and the recipe calls for an hour, man, and we're bearing
Right,
the
and it's going to be
burden of this.
flat.
And we've been
not very
telling them
tasty.
for months.
but I think what you're voting on is to amend the subdivision plan for the location of that easement, I think. And then some
Point
language,
is,
some
will they
language.
be ready to do that?
And I think, Dan, aren't the easements created and accepted after the street's accepted? Or does the easement have to come first?
You don't,
Language.
you
Yeah,
it has
don't, you
to
don't
have
want me
it,
to
right.
give a legal opinion on this
I don't.
right now.
I don't. Okay. No, I don't.
Okay.
You're right.
Battling with the client?
Nope,
Okay.
you just
So-
don't want me to do that. right
No, I know. And I'm sorry, it's not appropriate because
So
it's not
after
on the agenda,
4th,
but.
That was the
And also,
date
Dan,
that
it's
we can
not our
hold
town
public
council.
hearings.
Right.
The 4th of April?
Yeah.
After the 4th of April? Well, no, but
Yep.
do you have enough time to get it?
Yeah, I can get, today's only the 13th of March. So if I put the hearing notice in the 21st, in the newspaper on the 21st, we can have a hearing after the 4th of April, anytime after the 4th of April. So even, I don't know if you want to look at the 9th of April for something.
I was going to say 7th through the 9th, because then we could figure out
Yep.
time for later in the month when it's vacation. If we,
Yeah.
it front loads it, but it also gets.
Wait, what are we
vacations
talking
out
about?
of the
7th through the 9th for what?
One of those dates
One of
possible for
those,
the.
maybe
public
April
hearing.
9th.
But
On the
With
easement.
respect to MBTA, I think we should try to do it after April 14th, because
Oh, right.
that is
We
the
had that.
expiration of the emergency
Yeah,
regulations.
I think the 16th is a good plan for that, so let's
Okay,
just
so
say
the
that.
public hearing on the 9th, which would also be one of our regular meetings?
Well, your regular meeting normally would be the 10th, but you can't hold it at that time.
Right, so we
you
can have
could
the regular meeting on the 10th,
No, we
Yeah,
can't.
you could have it on the
on the
9th.
9th, sorry.
If you want.
And that will also include a public hearing.
Yep.
And then on the next week, on the 16th, we'd have just
And
MBTA.
recommend-
MBTA, we could do that.
And then we have our
But-
April meeting done, and then we just do this MBTA thing.
MBTA. Yeah.
Right, and,
Are you
and-
opposed to two
And the public
meetings?
hearing on the easement, I
can
don't
do it
see a
all
reason
spring,
why we
winter.
couldn't just decide to
No, I
recommend it up
assume,
the same night.
I assume we're going to continue to have public participation at the public hearing on MBTA, right?
I'm positive.
And I assume it'll be more than what we were seeing tonight?
Possibly.
Yeah,
Although
okay, thank you.
we may have to limit people to 5 minutes of speaking.
So we should have a standalone for MBTA.
Or 3, depending on how big the crowd is, and
So,
maybe we'll bring a
That would be-
policeman. We did have to do that last summer.
So
Which
that
wasn't
would
actually
be-
terribly funny, but
So that would be,
A small town feel.
no.
so you could have, on the 9th, you could have the public hearing for Spring Hill easement and street acceptance.
No, we can't do both.
Well, they just said they
I
could do
don't know
both
why.
on the same night.
You've approved an easement, then you can recommend that they go up to the selects to be put on the
Or
warrant.
you, well,
Do we-
or not.
Do we have, we still don't have the completed materials from.
We'll have
Well,
everything.
we can't have a public hearing without them, so.
It's 3
No, we can have a public hearing on the easement.
No, but I mean, Margaret's telling us she's going to have the completed materials next week.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Including the draft one.
I've heard this before, that's
Well, so
all.
if you don't have the completed materials, though, then this whole conversation is moot because
Right,
we wouldn't
yeah.
post it in the news anyway.
Which is
so
pretty
Right.
much
doesn't
why it's
matter.
not on the
Right.
agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Correct.
So then we just put.
So we
Okay.
just
With
take
that
it off
date.
the agenda
And if you
and,
Okay.
don't get the stuff next week, then we just cancel the public hearing because it's not going to,
right, and
Okay,
we'll
so-
all be
so
able to
let's-
eat dinner with our families on the
So
night.
you're saying April 9th,
public
We're
hearing on
gonna
Spring Hill
have-
easement
public hearing for Spring Hill
and the
easement.
potential recommendation to the select board, correct?
Okay, and the potential on the street acceptance recommendation.
And is
Okay.
that also our main meeting for the month, or are we not even thinking about that?
And that will be your main
For
meeting,
the month.
your regularly scheduled meeting on the 9th.
So we're meeting 2 Wednesdays in April.
Yeah, so you'd be meeting 2 Wednesdays in a row.
Okay.
Are you okay with that? Everyone's
Sure.
okay?
Hopefully
Okay.
the open space
And then
committee
April
doesn't need a
16th
quorum
for
that
the
night.
MBTA public hearing, and I'll post that in the newspaper and do all that.
We can't do both again like last time?
Running back and forth. Yeah, that was fun.
I
Since
will-
we're talking about Spring Hill, can I raise something else?
Are we done with this, Margaret?
If we just need to be yeah, we really need to be careful because it's not on the agenda.
I'll
it's
wait as
specific
other
to
matters
Spring
as
Hill.
may not have been
Yeah,
anticipated if
that's,
you
I
want.
think we should do the minutes.
Fine.
And then,
If I could just, so April 16th, MBTA public hearing, once the select board refers it back to us, which I assume they'll do next Wednesday. So I'll get that into the paper for April 16th. And April 9th, the other 2 items.
And these will all start at 7, I assume?
Yeah, they're all at 7 PM.
That's fine, I'm just putting it in my.
Okay.
well, I know, query whether it should start at 6:30 if it's going to be a very long public hearing.
Which one, Ian?
The MBTA,
You want to start at 6:30?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
people do that.
6:30, okay?
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay,
'Cause it's going to be a long night, so.
okay, all right. All right, I'm going to put that in my phone. Excellent.
You have your pills.
Thank you. Minutes.
Wait a second.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not an uh-oh, but I mean, I do think it's worth considering. Do we need to do anything in preparation for that public hearing?
Yeah, oh, okay. Thank you for mentioning that, David.
We'd like to
Once-
have some sort of fiscal
Well,
analysis.
once this all gets sent back to me from the Select Board next week, we're going to create a new page on the website with this new MBTA information. So,
And
and
when can we, and information about the town's efforts to try to analyze the financial impact?
That's, I mean,
I know it's sort of nascent, but
well, so I think that's more on the select board's timeline. Like, if we recommend it back, I mean, it's not to say that fiscal impact isn't a subject for this board.
no, I understand.
Practically speaking, I think, you know, it's gonna be, I don't know that it can be done. I'm just speaking on my own opinion by that point. I mean, if we're gonna have publicly attended working group meetings and, you know, so with notice and scheduling, there's gonna be a bunch of people. It's gonna take a little bit of time, so.
It's going to be available before the special town meeting, though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would assume before, when the select board votes it up or down, to put it on the warrant.
Okay.
I think some of those details, if you're talking to them, should be in the warrant. the financial analysis should appear
be.
in the warrant book, so people have time to digest it before town meeting day.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
And if there's any way to get, when we're talking about preparing for the public hearing, just having some grasp of a timeline by which that kind of analysis will be available.
I think we should have a timeline.
Yeah, what we had discussed at the last meeting was, I think, the 18th?
We talked about possibly the 18th, yeah.
Potentially, but at
Kate-
that, having a
Of
framework
March.
in place.
Of March.
For the next time for them to meet. Kate and I are working on that framework that you talked about, so.
Yep.
We've also reviewed the fiscal analysis statements from towns around us to see how they did it, just so we can
Great.
not use what they did, but,
Not reinvent the wheel.
right, do it so it looks the same in terms of like, okay, this is how someone else did it, we're generally following the same approach.
I mean, just to, for everyone knows, the challenge is the tool that we were given is great for what it is, but it doesn't have a lot of capital expenditure analysis baked into it. Or it doesn't appear to, and so that's the real curious variable that this working group will be charged to resolving to the best of our ability. So it's not just as straightforward as, looking at what we have and drawing out development scenarios.
I don't think anybody expects you to provide anything definitive because there's so many variables to this. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, but if we don't
General
account
sense.
for the major considerations,
Right.
I think it's subject to attack, and
Yeah, I
it will
think,
be attacked anyways, but I think we've got to do our best to give
why do you
something
say that,
reasonable.
Dave?
There are always two sets of facts in our country right now.
Just
And
to,
one of them is actually accurate, and
One isn't.
I mean, but sorry, but I was thinking like Margaret, I mean, and I'm not saying you should do this, but is there going to be like a PowerPoint or big boards, or Ann's going to lead something that public
Yeah, what do
hearing?
we-
I mean, what are we thinking we're going to actually give the
Oh, yeah, for when we have the public hearing?
that's what
Sure,
we're.
we can have, we can get a board with the map on it. Is there any other
I mean, we've
drafts of
we've
the
already done this. but-
bylaw? Yeah, we've
There
done
is
it.
a presentation, right?
Nothing much is changing. We have the presentation, we just kind of update the dates.
I think we should have that, and just in case we
Yeah.
need to. And we can talk about this at the meeting before the
For
public
it.
hearing
Maybe you
for
could
MBTA,
provide us
right?
with that information so we can have a look.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Add
I'll
it.
put that on the
I would
agenda.
add the sunset provision as a slide.
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
That what?
Add the sunset provision as a slide.
UCC.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll put together, so do you think you want to do a PowerPoint presentation for that night, Ann? And do we
A
want to meet
short-
in here?
A short one, I suppose, because I think we're going to, in response to some comment, we may need to refer back to slides that say exactly
Okay.
what this thing does and doesn't do.
Meet here as opposed to what, Bucher?
Yeah, like we did the last
I
time.
think we do need a police officer, based on what I heard tonight. I mean,
I don't think it's going to be that.
I was told to wear a helmet.
Yeah, right. I was just told, and technically now
I know,
that's a threat.
I think that
Just
was
said that?
Yes.
Yes.
jest.
Wear a helmet.
Yeah, that.
I hope it was in jest,
Can't
but
jest anymore in public.
I felt
All right.
some discomfort at one of the meetings we had last summer.
Yeah, it was
If
pathetic.
you'd be more comfortable with a police officer, then we'll
think
get
I would.
We should get a police officer then.
Yeah, that's not a problem. What I could do is maybe have the board sit over there and have the public here facing the screen, if,
In this room?
If we do it in this
This room's not
room?
big enough
yeah,
for
all right.
this
You
hearing.
think you want to do it at Bucher?
I think it has to be at Bucher.
All right, well, I'd have to make sure we could get the room that night,
Yep.
if we're going
I
to schedule
think you're going to
it
have
that
to.
night.
I mean, I don't know.
It's more than a month out, right? April 16th?
They fill up quick.
Well, can you,
Let me,
Check on
I can
that,
check
please.
that and the library. The room at the library is great.
it's bigger than this,
Much
certainly.
bigger than this, and it's,
Isn't the library in Hamilton?
well, it's,
Yeah, but we own
Jointly owned.
a third of it.
I know that, but
There's some rule
don't
that
we have to meet in Wenham?
You might have to meet him.
oh, gosh, I didn't even have thought of that, Dan. You're
Well,
right.
technically,
tent?
we should be
Right.
one.
Okay, if we can't get the
we'll do it in
Bucher School, we'll set this up as best
Let's
we
just do it
can.
by Zoom. Okay.
We can just have everybody stand.
I would
Everybody stand.
costume.
Yeah.
Make it uncomfortable.
You know, people lining up outside, that could be,
Everyone would be dirty.
Actually, I don't.
I'd be
Well, let's-
surprised if
before
Bucher
we-
wasn't available, either the
before we-
cafeteria
yeah,
or
I will
the...
check.
Oh, the cafeteria would
basketball,
be fine.
basketball will be over by then, so.
gotta be
probably over already.
multi-purpose room. That's where the cameras are.
Yeah, it's got to be in
Multipurpose room?
purpose room.
That's the cafeteria.
Is that where the
That's the
cafeteria
cafeteria,
is? Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
That's where the warrant hearing's held, too.
That's where our first public forum was.
I
Right,
thought it was in the main.
That was our second.
that was the one where,
That was in June. November was in,
I missed November, I was traveling.
And we'll
I
do as
got
much
you.
outreach as we can on social media, on, we'll put it
Right.
on the bulletin board out there.
And I think news travels too,
Yeah.
generally. Okay, anything else on the
What,
I just-
this
One
is
for the
a
ages.
question for
I
the
just don't know
lawyers.
how, oh, go ahead.
No, you go first.
No, go ahead,
I was-
you were speaking.
If the regulations expire on the 14th and nothing else is put out, what happens? Is the assumption then that they're saying these stay in place, or then are they in some form of default, or? I don't know
I'm
if
just
that's
going to say, we got to hope they stay in place, because it's only by the grace of those regulations that we get to put part of it out by the highway.
I think their intention is that the emergency regulations are going to become the actual regulations, so that they will transform. The reason the 90-day expiration is important is because they have to tell us what's up with the emergency regulations at that point.
Well, they automatically expire.
Right.
Right,
so
but they're
we're-
not
we're
going to just
assuming
let
that
them expire. They're going to either
Before that
adopt
happens,
something
they're
or
going to.
adopt something.
We should know by the 14th is what we're getting at. Yeah, I know, it's clear as mud.
Yeah, I work in federal government stuff, so I'm very,
So you're used to this.
very used to it.
Oh, and
And government is really fun
right now, it's really fun, I'm
We do
sure.
a lot of budget documents, so that's really exciting.
But I just don't know how to get across to our neighbors that they're kind of barking up the wrong trees. Like,
Right.
if they want to change the legislation, I don't know how to get this across to them. I don't want to call them privately to say, you really should be at the State House every day, knocking
Telling
on the
them that
governor's
this is
door,
not-
saying this is not right.
For Wenham.
For whoever it is, it's not right.
Right.
Or be calling, what's his name, Bruce Tarr, and being, and I just don't know how to get that across, that we're just the players.
We're just functionaries here.
Right, we're just little players in this big game.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a good point. Look, once the SJC said it was constitutional, this shifted to, you should be lobbying your local representatives.
Your representative.
Yes, correct.
Right.
But it's
And-
easier just to scream locally, I guess, I don't know.
And say it again, so far, the regulations, apart from the part that makes us have to comply with the whole shoot and match, is only half the space, right? Because we share with Hamilton. But just setting that aside, and setting aside the fact that we just barely are not a small town, or whatever I don't remember the exact phrase, so that we get a break. Setting those parts aside, we're actually helped by the regulations. I'm going to say it again, because we're able to not have to put all the density in the downtown.
Right, but the way the metrics are written right now, they reclassify us as a 25%, which
Well,
basically.
that's what I'm saying, putting that aside,
Well, but
you
that's
know.
not the adjacent. That basically turns us into a rapid transit community.
Right.
So there are problems with the metrics. I don't know how much we can actually talk about this right now, because we're past it. Can we continue to talk
I think
about
we're having a.
It's not a
Okay,
public
fine.
hearing, it's just an
Yeah, we're
item
not-
on the agenda, yeah. You can go back.
Just having a conversation about it.
So, yeah.
I think, though, that we have exhausted it, and we should move on to the minutes.
Minutes, the most favorite
Yes,
thing of any,
we've put this in the select board's lap now.
the last CPA
Then the
meeting, we
towns.
did 6 sets of minutes.
It's
all
going
at
to come back
once.
to us, and then it's going to go to.
And then it's going to go to the town. Okay, I'm sorry. You were saying something.
No, in the last CPA meeting, we did 6 sets of minutes to get ourselves caught up, so I'm
Oh, boy.
minute it out. That was
Okay.
last week.
Well, I was not here on the 13th, so I can't opine on these minutes, so can someone else? Either-
I think
I've
I moved-
redlined both
Yep.
of
You
them, so-
have, which
And
makes me
that's
think
what I sent
they're-
you all with Dan's red line, so it's up on the screen.
On the first set, February, oh no, sorry.
I'm looking at the February 13th right now, David.
Yeah, the only comment I have on that is an edit of Dan's edits,
For it.
which
There's an
is
IE
under
without a-
bullet point discussion on next steps for MBTA 3A zoning amendments. Next page.
Oh, is it limited to?
No?
No, topic should.
Oh, there's one.
Where is
You
it?
got it, right here. Should say should, instead shul.
Better.
Yeah, that's my value contribution.
Okay.
Well, the comma
Which one is
after
this?
IE was good.
Second page.
There's one of
See
those
right here?
on the side.
First bullet,
you
third
missed
line.
one above that, though, Dave.
Ugh.
The bottom of that page, it should say limited to 900 square feet or less. The 2 got taken out as well.
Oh, okay. All right, let's add a 2 back in there.
Wow.
Okay?
That's the only contribution I'm making to.
I think you have done your job. I appreciate them.
And Rick Woodland noted half the circle, not noted that, because Rick cares about extra that's.
Fine, take that out.
I'm not a that person.
Noted that half.
He wants the that removed.
He wants that.
You want me to remove the
You guys do have a
that?
different.
Yes,
it's not
that.
just you have a different way
Different
of.
style.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand that's because you have to
The
worry about
layers.
courts, but.
And the T.
Did you want to
The
put
T,
any
too. The T has to go, too.
White or whoever it was. Or
There's a T there, you didn't get the T.
There you go.
That would've
Yeah, I
been-
know, it's hard to see.
And the extra space.
Got it.
I tried to leave the that's out.
But you
Since-
can't. You
since-
can't.
Hey,
Sometimes they creep
that's
back in.
all, folks. Let's get out of here.
All right.
All, folks.
I need a motion.
27th and do them together?
We can't because
Okay.
Ann can't vote on
I also wasn't.
No, I can't vote on the, yeah, you can't.
So you
I
wanna just
can't.
vote with
I
the
wasn't
3 of
here
you
on
on
the
this?
13th.
All right, I move
Circling Logan Airport.
to approve the minutes of February 23rd, 13th, 2025 as edited, as
Sec-
amended.
Second.
Aye.
Have a vote, please.
Woodland, aye.
Ann abstains.
Anderson, aye.
Scott abstains.
3-0.
Exciting.
302.
3-0 vote.
The 3-0 vote.
Sting the T.
On, if we were going to get silly, I would point out that on the second page, there's an IE without a comma.
Yes, I know.
All right,
That's
let's
nice
Part of the reason
comma.
why I caught it tonight.
get the next one.
These are minutes, however.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said if I were going to be silly.
227. Okay, now we've got 227. Let me pop it up here for you.
I actually think making sure these Spring Hill Farm,
Okay?
Who did these minutes, Catherine?
Catherine, she's doing them remotely. She watches the recordings and does them from the recordings.
can I just, on the Spring Hill, the second line, this is probably a stupid technical thing, but, or stupid word choice thing,
what
but it
page
says
are you on,
M.
Ann? I'm
Hoffman
sorry.
reviewed,
Page
no
2.
new documents have been received. I think it's reported that no new
Oh,
documents.
right here,
Correct. Yes.
M. Hoffman, okay, reported.
Reported no new documents have been received. Not
and
adding any
everybody-
extra
By
that's.
the way, everybody chime in with whatever edits
Right.
you feel are appropriate. I have no pride of ownership on the
Yeah,
red line.
right. I'm just reading this one.
The next
Pretty
sentence,
carefully.
as D. Anderson,
Yep, that's you.
I agree with everything up to the semicolon, but I think what follows that is exactly the opposite of what I was saying. I don't think I took a position. He debated if it was right for the town to assume a possible expense of the town. I might have suggested that positions could be
Where are
taken
we?
one way or the other,
Fourth line down.
but I don't think I
Fifth
debated
bullet.
it.
And under discussion of Spring Hill. This is the one that
I'm on the
is,
other page.
What do you think, David?
Page 2 of 3.
I mean, I know
it's
Catherine
the
hates that because she
27th one.
says, I wrote what
27th.
happened. So I
It's-
don't really want to mess with her because I respect her and I appreciate her efforts.
Okay.
But I don't think I debated it. Did I debate that if the town should take it on? I think that was the whole point. That I was saying, let's
Identify
not
two key
debate it.
constituents.
It's not
I think you're
ours.
saying it wasn't the purview.
purview of, yeah, it's not our
Oh,
jurisdiction.
debated, okay. What do you think? Do you want to?
I still don't know where we are.
Okay. David is questioning whether he,
Oh,
whether
okay.
this is
What do you think? Do you want to change that word?
Got it.
Um,
Want to make a question?
Why don't you say questioned?
I don't think I even did that, did I?
We can take it out.
I thought that opined about the jurisdiction
Was the extent of it.
was the extent of it, but I
And I know
don't,
I go on for
I
it.
gotta say, I
Under
don't
the-
know.
okay.
Here.
I don't know.
All right, then you want me to take out
There was an awful lot of
this
discussion
section?
about this.
Yeah, I'd like to
Delete
take
it?
that out.
Yeah, after fiscal, I mean, I think it's
After
the
fiscal
same. I
resources?
think this is just an expansion of the point you made
Okay, so we take
before the
that out
semicolon, so.
and make the semicolon a period.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Can we just, after those paragraphs that are left justified, can we put a return after the word board or before the word the board?
Yeah, just to separate it
Can we
into
do them
different.
all the way down
yeah,
typographically, because if not, they all run on
very
paragraphs.
hard to read. And
You
then
need an
that
E
second one
after
has
that.
an
Return.
E after
Yep, but then we have
a bullet.
another bullet.
Well, we can
Is
reformat.
backspace,
Backspace it?
Right,
With backspace.
If I-
Yeah, that's will be okay. It won't
That's
show up.
good.
No,
Okay,
you're
right.
good.
There it goes, thank
Put
you.
it, you need an E, though.
You need an
I
E,
missed it.
the board.
The board.
Oh yeah, look at that. Ugh, The
The
board,
board.
the board.
The bears.
Okay, and then you want
Returns after all
Return.
these
After
left-hanging
submitted.
paragraphs, after responsibilities,
After responsibilities.
application,
Yes.
all the way down.
Yep. If you,
Sorry, I have to read it.
It's okay.
yeah.
No, I know, and
Your
Yeah.
typographical
it's quite important
Managing editor,
that we
lost
be
it.
able to read this one in particular, I
Taught me
think.
all that crap.
That's a lot.
One more. Planning board reiterated they needed appropriate time, completed application, return.
Another one there?
Yep.
Can you
Yeah,
put that in
after-
all caps?
After every,
Yeah.
and you'll note, it's not on tonight's agenda because they weren't ready.
Yeah, just keep going, whenever you can. It's just
Everywhere that it's a
Yep.
different,
When
Review,
you go to a different,
application.
a new paragraph, there should be a space. I think it's just a function of how the thing is set up. It should say space after paragraph or something.
Continue on here.
Yes, please.
And
After
after 20.
June 9, 2025. Up,
Right there, that's good.
after the second bullet.
Yeah, standard agenda, yeah. No, back up.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. I move
That
to
looks- yeah,
accept
little-
approve the minutes of February 27th, 2025 as amended.
Okay.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Woodland, aye.
House Girl, aye.
Weeks aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schellenberger, aye.
Oh, we got more, this doesn't end.
That's it.
Oh, we're
Oh,
done.
that's it. That's it.
So other matters?
Yes.
So I was going to bring this up earlier, but you said wait. This is a Spring Hill issue. I watched the select board's meeting from, I guess, last week. They are waiting for us to say something to them about whether we think Spring Hill should be on the warrant for April. This isn't whether we recommend street acceptance or not.
They withdrew their application to the select board.
There was a
The
co-
homeowners
yeah, you-
association sent an email today to the select board.
I had a conversation with Armin.
So it's not
that's
gonna
my
be on the
boss.
April warrant.
Conversation with Margaret while I was on vacation about the status, about what the board needed. I also had a conversation with Ben Timon about what the board needed from us, and, you know, if they weren't ready to come tonight, what they needed from us. And he said, well, if they're not ready, we can't put it on the warrant, so.
Right. I just, there
It's
seemed to
just
be.
been managed.
The fact that they withdrew today, great. I saw Peter at the select board meeting saying, the planning board's going to tell us whether they think it should be on the warrant or not.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's moot, but I was just going to
Because
say
they know
that
they're not ready.
us telling the select board whether it should be on the warrant is not the same as us telling the select board whether we recommend acceptance.
Right,
But-
Correct.
right.
But
That's
they're
true.
off the warrant, so we don't need to say anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
It
Just
it
clean
may
slate
still be
for-
on the warrant, but it will be passed over at town meeting,
Because the warrant may have already gone to print.
because it went to print.
Oh, well, all right.
It doesn't matter. though.
Because we had a special meeting for them. to
Then
be
if they're not
ready,
waiting
and
on
they
us,
weren't
then we
ready.
don't need to.
No,
No,
they're not waiting
ready.
on us. I think we're good.
It was a little bit in jest, but not really. How do we get those 65,000 dispersed? Is that possible, or is that too aggressive?
Can we
Before,
advance
what's
pay
the
the bill?
compliance deadline for MBTA, 31st of July?
Yes. The
Oh,
money for
no,
the
so the
subdivision
grant
will
money,
commence.
we signed the contract with the state. The grant money is in place. We are going to be selecting a contractor. I went out and asked for 3 people to give us prices.
Great.
What we found is, we think we might come in under $50,000 with their contract. So that's all we have to do. We don't have to go to an RFP with it. That's what we're working towards. So there are 2 companies that actually gave us estimates. I had 3 other ones who didn't even want
But
to
where's the
give us-
money? Is it sitting with the state, or is
Yeah.
it sitting in
Can we
Wenham's
get a
account
pre,
somewhere?
can we do a
When can we-
prepayment? Can we do a
No.
prepayment discount?
No, we can't.
So when are we making a selection, and when will the money
Probably
disperse?
next week, we should be able to make that selection.
And when will the monies disperse?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't give you that. I don't know
That's,
that
I think,
information.
that's the question.
But I know what you're saying. Yeah, we want
Yeah.
to grab that money before they take it back. Yeah.
Like if you can prepay
We
or-
may get into compliance, but if we
Yeah.
didn't, that would be a sad.
We are in compliance.
Well, we
right
may
now.
be
Yeah,
in
we're
compliance
interim
by the
compliance.
compliance deadline.
No, we're in compliance right now.
Right, so we
But
can be
won't
dis-
be after the 31st.
Yeah.
potentially.
Why do you say that?
You don't know that.
Okay, folks. If it's voted down by the town, we would not be in compliance.
Okay, that's a fair assumption, but if it's not, then we would be, so.
Well, not necessarily.
Or-
That's a false
or
assumption too,
if-
because if the AG doesn't approve it, are we in compliance?
We're in compliance until they say we're not in compliance.
Right. But even
Right.
if the town votes it up, if the sunset provision tanks us because of the non-severability, I'm just saying, let's get the money. If it's
Right.
there, if we
We don't
Yeah,
need to run
and
through
I-
all the hypotheticals, what-ifs, but the point, I think, that you're making
I
is very
understand.
valid, which is, let's get the money and let's,
Can you share who the companies were?
Yeah, Emily Innes was one, and it's not BSC Group. It's, I can tell you. I'll send them to you.
This
I'll
is to
send them
update
the
our
quotes.
subdivision rules and regulations?
Yeah, it's just
The
do the
typed
subdivision.
copy from 1986
yes.
or
That
something?
we
Does
cannot even get into a
J.M.
Word
Golson
document.
do this work?
No. We did ask, it's not something they would take on. I asked Judy Barrett, she couldn't do it. We reached out to MAPC, I didn't get
They don't wanna
anything
work
back
with
from
you.
them.
I wouldn't blame them. I think that's a mark of a
They see that
job well done.
1984 document and go, no.
Oh, my God.
I have never had to deal with this situation before with the grant. They just kind of play out themselves, and, you send in the information and they send you the money. But I understand this is a different situation. So let me see
But
what,
it does sound like we're on track to have someone hired and have the money flow before July.
It'll
So
start
that's
It
good.
may also be, when they said that they weren't going to fund us, or whatever, we didn't have a contract in place. It may be that the
Right.
contract gives us different legal standard, status than before.
Maybe. Not, that's,
well, they
question for-
wouldn't even send us a contract
Right.
because we weren't in compliance.
Right.
So, but we have gotten the contract.
Although we were.
They
signed
said
up.
we weren't in compliance.
we were actually in compliance.
Well, we
I
weren't.
understand your
No,
point.
we were.
We
They
were.
had
Understand your point.
ineffective
Do you want
guidelines
me to take these?
that were
that's trash.
unenforceable.
Well, that had been determined.
Ultra vires.
I understand that point.
Would the chairman
We
entertain a
weren't out
motion?
of
I would love, the chair would
Yes.
definitely entertain a
I
motion to
would
adjourn.
like to make a motion that we adjourn the 3:13 meeting of the Wenham Planning Board at what that clock says, 8:52 p.m.
Until
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 we meet again on April 9th,
April 9th.
at 7 p.m.
7 PM.
April 9th is going to be 7 PM. The next one, though, will be the 6th.
Be earlier
Okay.
because it's MVPA.
Second.
All in favor?
Woodland, yes.
Pascal, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for pushing for the
Recording stopped.
adjournment.
Yes.